Hi, my name is Stacy Sailors. I'm a board-certified behavior analyst with Stockton Unified's Mental Health and Behavior Support Services Department. The following presentation is a 4-week series titled BCBA Coffee Talk. These coffee talks were virtual meetings with parents hosted by a board-certified behavior analyst. All presentations were developed by myself, Edgar Cardoza, and Alejandra Urbina, who are also board-certified behavior analysts in our department. The topics covered during this 4 weeks included reasonable expectations, setting schedules, setting limits, motivating your child, and managing challenging behaviors. If you're interested in additional resources, I encourage you to go to our website, which you can find off the Stockton Unified School District's main webpage. There, you will go to Departments, click on Mental Health and Behavior Support Services, and then go to where it says Parent and Caregiver Resources. There, you can find links for our student and family resources, our helpline, and even our YouTube channel. Hi, welcome to Parent Coffee Talk. This is a weekly talk that we're going to be offering on Tuesdays and Thursdays for parents to come in and talk about how to help support their students and their children in distance learning. And this week we're going to be talking about setting up some reasonable expectations and schedules for distance learning. Your speakers today are myself, Stacy Sailors. I'm a behavior analyst for Stockton Unified School District, and we will also be joined by Edgar Cardoza, who's also a behavior analyst for our Stockton Unified School District. Okay. So for what we're going to be going over today is our information review. We're going to just talk about kind of what are some reasonable expectations and how to make a schedule that's and stick to it. When we have these meetings, you're more than welcome to participate and write down your questions, and we would love to have a question and answer period at the end. Okay, so this is unexpected times. We are in shelter in place, and this is something that's very different for all of us. We're all having to wear different hats. It's drastically changed our lives, and parents who had to juggle a lot during before shelter in place happened and before COVID are now trying to juggle even more, and it's almost impossible. They're juggling stressors from finances, health concerns, and supporting their children's education. With all of these things, since life is different, we need to also look at our expectations differently and adjust our expectations. So, what is a realistic expectation? Well, it depends. It depends on your living situation. Your living situation may be a bit different now. You may have more people, less people living with you. You may be working from home while trying to support your kids' distance learning. And all of those factors are going to adjust your expectations. And it could be your family situation. Maybe you are now also having to care for additional family members that you weren't having to care for before, or there's more needs. It also depends on your student. Your student and your child, they are going to have different needs that you're going to have to adjust. Some kids are more independent, some are less independent. And it also depends on you. What are you able to do and follow through with without killing yourself over? So these are expectations that we're all going to have to think about and consider. And if you're a working parent, it's even more that you have to consider. If this time schedule is pretty reasonable for most parents, because it could be that you're working for 2 minutes at a time, that you're working for 10 minutes at a time, that you maybe get in a whole 40 minutes that you're working while you're also helping to support your kids during distance learning. So again, all your expectations, they have to be adjusted. And when you're looking at what's reasonable, what is something that you can achieve, you want to ask some questions for yourself, like, is this something you could support your child with? Is it even achievable? What resources do you need? Are you in need of some support of how to get access to your technology? And are the expectations, your expectations for yourself, your expectations for your family, Are they things that you can meet without adding a lot of stress onto your family and adding a lot of stress onto your kids? So with reasonable expectations, if for them to be successful, they are going to help make sure not to set your kids up for failure, but they are going to help set your kids up for success. They're going to help reduce the stress and conflict in your home. They shouldn't be adding to it. And they're going to help improve self-confidence with your kids and even with you. So part of making reasonable expectations and setting those up, in order to meet those things, we're going to be looking at making a schedule, and Edgar is going to be taking that over and talking about that now.
So it's really important, especially with the current situation we're in, that we do our best to establish routines and schedules. Children do really well when we have predictable routines and structure that go along with those routines. Stay-at-home orders have disrupted any kind of previous routines that we've had in place at school and in the home, and it might be the case that families may have few predictable routines right now as we're going through the current situation. So for this reason, it's important that we try to be as consistent with whatever routines that we establish and schedules that we establish as well. The more consistent and predictable our routines are, that's going to lead to more positive behaviors from our children, and it's also going to lead to less challenging behaviors, especially when they know what their day looks like and when they know what to expect throughout the different activities that they're being assigned through distance learning. When we're looking at building a routine or building a schedule, there's certain things that we need to consider, especially when we're looking at our child's needs. So the first thing that we need to look at is, does your child need help getting started? So if they do need help getting started with the distance learning, then you want to build your schedule around the time where you are available to provide that additional assistance and support, especially if, for example, we know that our child struggles with math. So we want to make sure that whenever we're scheduling out times during the day for them to do their math assignment, that we're available to provide that support. Another thing to keep in mind is, when is your child ready to learn? For some of the older students, especially students in the middle school or high school grades, it may be the case that they're more alert and ready to learn later in the morning or early in the afternoon. If that's the case, then we want to make sure that we're tailoring our schedule during those times when they're more alert and ready to learn. Another thing to consider too is, are we building time in our children's schedule for them to be physically active? Physical activity will help provide some of those breaks for the kids and really help them concentrate and get back on task, especially when they've been sitting for a while and have been engaging with various academic tasks. And lastly, we also need to look at what systems do we currently have in place at home for following home rules. If we do already have systems, then that's great. Then we can look at how can we incorporate those systems to help facilitate some of that distance learning and some of those academic tasks that children are being assigned. Apart from considering what your child's needs, you also need to consider, what are your needs when we're building a schedule? We need to come up with some expectations with your children about when you're able to help and when are you not available to help because you have, you're either working from home or there's other things that you need to do to take care around the home. So with that, it's really important that we're communicating when can we provide help, and during those times that we cannot, then we need to build in some activities that they can do on their own. Another thing that we need to consider is, what materials do we need to create a productive distance learning environment for our children, whether that be having a clutter-free, distraction-free area for them to work wherein they're doing their distance learning, to just even the technology that we are going to be using and becoming familiar with the platform that the teacher might be assigning for the student to complete their work on. So just becoming familiar with some of those aspects can make this process a little bit smoother for your child. And when we are setting up that learning environment, we need to the best of our abilities, make sure that we are setting up a morning routine that is consistent as what the morning routine would typically be if we were, attending school in normal times. This can include eating breakfast, getting dressed, or even just changing clothes, putting on a different shirt or shoes, and then making sure that our learning space is set up to be quiet and is clutter-free and free of distractions, so that we can ensure that our children are being set up for in an environment where they can have the most success. The more that our schedule resembles a normal school schedule, the easier that it's going to be on our children, because they're accustomed to that routine of transitioning between different types of activities throughout the day, whether that be different academic tasks or going outside and playing, or meal times and whatnot. We need to also make sure that we're setting aside specific times for specific routines and activities, whether that be reading, math, or other academic work. Another great tool that you can use is you can use a timer to signal the start and end of different academic activities. It's also a great way to cut down on the number of questions that you're going to get from a child about when an activity is ending or starting. Some additional considerations to take in mind is to, like I said earlier, make sure that we're building in activities that your children can already do on their own. Plan times where you can have some time for yourself, because if you're not planning times where you can do things for yourself, then it's going to be harder for you to not only take care of yourself, but to also help support your child through this distance learning and just generally through the current situation that we're all facing. It's also important that we're making sure that as we're building a schedule, that we are incorporating times to go outside. Be as physically active with your child as you can be. Movement helps children focus and get back on track, especially during those times where they've been engaged in an academic task for a considerable period amount of time. So there's different ways that you can go about implementing physical activity throughout their day as they're doing distance learning. So we can consider incorporating walks or even indoor exercises such as jumping jacks, hopping, whatever else comes to mind. And there are even some physical games that you can play indoors, such as Simon Says, red light, green light, have a dance party. It's even a great time just to even have your child involved in coming up with different types of games or maybe physical activity that they can engage with you in the home. Another great thing to think about when you're implementing a new routine or schedule is you just using the environment and the world around you. Use your environment to build in activities such as having your child read, going out for a walk, creating art, or even having your child just come up with some of their own ideas. The more say that they can have in building the schedule and the more collaboration there is between you and your child, the more that they're going to buy into it, and the more likely it is that they're actually going to follow the schedule. Make sure that you're also setting aside quiet time throughout the course of the day. Predictable downtimes are important for all children. There's a variety of mindfulness apps and all kinds of activities that are available either online or through your phone. In addition, you can also consider incorporating videos, podcasts, or other media that you can consume as a family during these scheduled quiet times or downtimes. Another great thing to build into your schedule is making sure that we've set aside scheduled meal and snack times. These will be helpful because they provide natural transitions between a variety of activities. It again allows for downtime and prevents some of the sluggishness that you might get from a child who's been snacking throughout the day. And it also provides your child with a break to look forward to in between different types of academic activities that they're engaging in. Consistency is key, so it's important that you plan a routine that you can stick to. Involve your child in making the schedule to increase their buy-in in the schedule. And lastly, make sure that you do post the daily schedule so that everyone knows what to expect and it's not a surprise day in and day out. And if you do fall out of whatever schedule or routines you do come up with during this distance learning, don't worry. Just make sure that you try your best, reset, and just try again. So the next area that we're going to be focusing on are just kind of just different types of schedules, and Stacy's going to be covering that for you.
Yes, to go back and talk a little bit more about how important it is to write it down. As Edgar mentioned, once you've done all the work with identifying what's going to be reasonable and what's going to be a routine that you can be consistent with, incorporating all of those things he talked about, such as getting this meals, being physical, having the kids help you out. Once you've done all that work, it's important to make sure it's posted so that everyone can follow it. So write it down, write it down, write it down. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It doesn't have to be fancy. It just has to be something that's going to work for you, your family, and your student. And it could be digital, or it could be something that you literally just write down. There's a variety of different types of schedules that you can use. There are time-based schedules. These are mainly for older children. And the two schedules that I'm going to go over right now are mainly for older children. And then we'll go over some schedules that you can use for younger children. So these schedules for older children, you want to make sure that they're able to read, that they can read and write, and be independent. The time-based schedules are great for kids that are maybe like second grade or third grade through maybe early middle school, where they're able to be independent but need to have a lot of structure. So kind of like every hour, every half hour is planned out. Now for some of our older kids or our kids who are a bit more independent, to-do list might be a better option for them, where you're giving them a list of things for them to do and they check it off and they're able to kind of manage their time a little bit more. You could even blend both of these types of schedules together once you start getting the hang of it. So again, here's some suggestions and examples of time-based schedules and to-do lists. So for one, the option that's on the right-hand side of your screen, that's a digital schedule, highly structured and set up moment to moment. The other one is more of a checkoff, but it is also kind of a blended time-based schedule because it's breaking it up into our chunks that the child can check off when they get things done. So just having straight to-do lists, just write it down for them to take care of it. And other things that they could do where they can circle it off, or they can do notes on what they need help with. Now for our younger kids, we may want to look at having some simpler schedules and more picture-based schedules. We don't want them to have to be worrying about what they're seeing or what they're writing. And for this, you may need to be either taking some pictures of things and potentially printing it out. You could also just take pictures if you have devices and use them on your device. Or again, if you're not able to do those things, you may just want to be writing it down for yourself. So then that way you know, and set yourself a timer. So then that way you can be directing your kids. A first then schedule, if you do have the ability to put some pictures out, that's great for young kids that don't read and need to have just a couple things that are set out for them from like, you're going to do this first, and then now you're going to do another thing. And they need more supervision. If they're a little older, maybe first grade, second grade, maybe even some of our more advanced kindergartners, they may be able to follow a full picture schedule that has some words and some pictures that have several steps in their schedule laid out. So again, some examples of this, a first and then, where you could even use Postit notes for this. Here's a Postit note of what you're going to do, and then you're going to do the next thing, of something very simple. So it lays them out of what they're going to do now, and that hopefully then they're going to be, so maybe the first thing is some sort of task, like they're going to be reading or writing or doing some sort of academic task. and then going into some sort of reinforcement condition or reward, something more fun, something that they enjoy. The picture schedules, these can be, again, a bit bigger. You can be blending some words with them as well. And you can use a variety of either real life pictures or taking some pictures on the internet. Or again, if you don't have access to those things, just write it down yourself and make sure that you're able to guide your kids throughout the schedule and you're reminding them of when it's time to go to the next item. Some resources that you can look at, there's Khan Academy. They have resources that are free for how to develop a schedule, as well as downloadable things that you can get. Teachers Pay Teachers is a great site. They have both free and paid schedules that you can print down. And then Easter Seals has several visuals that you can grab, and we will share all of those links for Khan Academy, Teachers Pay Teachers, and Easter Seals with you on our website. All right, and just to recap, make sure that you're considering your needs and setting a school day schedule. You really want to make sure you're setting up times to schedule time for outside time, to learn about that world around you, and setting aside some time for the kids to have some quiet time, as well as setting in some scheduled times for your snacks and for the meal times. And make sure that what this schedule is something that you can stick to. And it's going to change. I mean, it may be that you start with something and you have great ideas that it's going to work. And then as you start working it and actually applying it with your kids, you realize, oh, this isn't quite working how I planned it. So then you can change it and adjust it as you need. And it's okay, as Edgar mentioned, if you fall off, just pick yourself back up and try again. We can only do what we can do. So make sure your expectations are reasonable. And if you're having a hard time, if it's too stressful meeting those expectations, take a step back, reevaluate, and adjust. So then that way you're getting through this time and everybody is set up for the most success. All right, that's it. Thanks, everyone. And thank you, Edgar, for all the great information. And again, we'll be doing this 2 times a week. We'll be doing the same topic, one on Tuesday mornings, another on Thursday afternoons. And it's a great opportunity for you to get some information on how to support your child during distance learning, as well as have a couple experts who can help answer your questions. And we'll set aside some time at the end of every meeting for you guys to ask your questions. Okay, thanks so much. Have a great day.